of your years, but I am much more in mine. He explained to Dolly that he spent much time traveling between dimensions, back and forth between time, and that aging didn't occur during this time. He tried to explain it to me, Dolly says. I sort of understood it. Dolly was amazed that her hybrid son cared enough to visit her when she was injured. She told him that she wasn't aware that ETs cared so much about humans. Of course we do, her ET son replied. He explained that there were good ETs and bad ones. Suddenly the white being and the gray being began to glow with light, and they disappeared. Dolly says, I didn't sleep the rest of that night at all. Now, in 2016, due to the damage to her kidneys from being poisoned, Dolly had a kidney transplant. It turned out that one of her friends was a near-perfect match. Following this, they became even closer. Now, the rest of this doesn't matter. What I'll explain quickly is it kept happening. After that incident, any time in life she had a super dangerous moment, a UFO would appear. Every time, which was amazing. She was being protected by her own biological son. So clearly over the time, her genetics were being taken from her, and they were making hybrids, which is creepy and evil on one level, but at the same time, her son coming back and like wanting to help her and protect her is so heartwarming and absolutely amazing. And that it's just crazy that they cared about her future. Now, I don't know if you guys want to step in there. I just want to give a couple ending thoughts to this before I move on. Before we move on,
yeah.
Do you guys have... So this is what
I got some things, but carry on. Yeah.
Okay, so this is what she learned from being on the craft all these years, which is a combination of remembering through regression and just actually remembering. She remembers most of the incidents, but then like when she's taken, there's always a fuzzy memory, so she has to recall them. But she says a couple things we've heard over and over again. The crafts aren't controlled physically, they're controlled mentally or psychically. You have to learn at a young age how to do it. That's probably why she was taken. She learned to fly crafts, and they were powered through magnetics. And this is the big message I want to give in the end. They mean no harm. In quote, she says, they really mean no harm. The world governments want to harm us, but the ETs do not. The governments want us to fear them. So she ended up this woman I looked up. I was like, who is this woman? All right, let's find out who she is. And she's a real person. And there's even a video. I found one YouTube video of her with a crazy UFO. It was amazing that I'll post. And she also, in the end, says that in a CE5 group that she had 60 people witness a UFO that they called down. They took photos and everything. So she is the real deal, it seems like. And I just loved her story of love and light.
Makes me want to do a CE5 even more now.
Yeah.
Did the ex-husband, did anything happen to that cunt at all? Or, I mean,
wouldn't the aliens fuck him up?
Evidence.
The
alien stuff is great, but I just want to make sure this prick is off the streets.
Nah, there was nothing else about it. There was no lawsuit. It was just it was, once we learned about they divorced, and he took years for him for her to get him away from him in the restraining order. We didn't learn it. I didn't learn anything else from the book, or I couldn't find it online. There is some other podcasts with her that I didn't get fully into. I listened to a couple of them. She might go into it, but I don't think so.
Okay. All right.
Okay. It happens all the time though. It's not like horrific, but she had all this stuff happen to her. They obviously took her ovaries and created this child without her knowing. And then there's a positive spin at the end. Is it just human nature for us to find the positive in every story, no matter how terrible it is? Or was it all warm and fuzzy at the end? I don't know. Because there's a lot of dark stuff in her childhood that's not... It's invasive.
It's definitely invasive. I actually agree with you. It's not... I don't think what's happening is bad. I think we perceive it as bad because we're humans. We don't like to be abducted. But fuck, do we do that all the time to other humans and other animals? And sometimes it's bad, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's not, man. We take people out of their third world countries and fix them and heal them and bring them back. We take animals. We do all sorts of research on them for the greater good, not necessarily just because we're being a dick to that mom and daughter or mom and dad. You know, I don't know. I'm not trying to justify it either way. I don't want to be abducted. Well, kind of. As long as I'm brought back. But, I don't want to be fucked with...
As long as they take my sperm and make a child, and then the child comes back and saves me, we're good. We're okay.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, as long as it's a Nordic, I'm in for a Nordic. As long as it's a woman, you know?
I don't think you get to have sex with her. I think they just come and they just, jack you off, and they take your sperm, and then, you know...
or they bring it... No, they get you excited, and they bring in a sectoid.
That's
You're
fine.
No.
You know what? Beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah, exactly. Don't invite that crap in.
Never look a gift horse in the mouth. I can't think of any other.
Oh my God!
Right now.
I don't know. I guess it's neither bad or good. It's neutral. Like most UFO experiences, according to large surveys, they're neutral or positive, less or negative. That's the truth.
Okay.
That is what's going on out there. So, but you might be right, Melissa. I might be justifying something horrible as a way to protect yourself from something horrible that happened to you. It could be that psychological thing. So,
Yeah.
Could be.
I don't know.
Could be. So, Matt, what dark hole are we falling in today?
Come on down to the dark basement, guys. We're going to Niagara Falls. So I jumped into a book that I found on Kindle, and it is called The Spectrum.
Ooh.
Glimpses of the Paranormal and Encounters with the Strange by Justin Bamforth. And this is a story about... a lot of people may have even seen this footage. It's pretty freaky, and I'll obviously put this all in the show links when we get to there. But we'll get to that point of what the footage actually is, because I think the lead up into it is pretty cool. So, May 2009, Ontario, Canada, and we're at the Sheraton Hotel at Niagara Falls.
Okay.
So the hotel manager is a guy named Shane Sovar, and he comes into work one day. He had the previous day off. He comes into work one morning, and the security guard, whose name was Bert, which is a fantastic name for a security guard, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know why, but I just love that.
I
Bert.
do too. A little too much for some reason.
Yeah. So Bert immediately runs over to him and says, hey, Shane, we have to talk, man. Can we go to your office? And Shane's like, yeah, man, whatever you want. Let's go. So they go to the office, and Bert begins to excitedly tell him what happened the previous day. All right, so that's our lead-in. So when I cut to 7 months previous, where Shane and Bert, Shane being the hotel manager, Bert the security guard, they're working late one night at this hotel, and they're outside, and they witness this huge black triangle start hovering over the property just above where they are. And specifically, it's over the Niagara River. And it's shooting a beam of light. All they see is this black triangle, blotting out the stars, basically.
Yeah.
And this beam of light shooting down, and it seems to be searching the river, like something in the river, in the water. So at first they think it's the Coast Guard, because apparently, bodies turn up in Niagara River all the time. People fall over the falls, I guess. It's funny how they explain this in the book. It just seems really nonchalant. Yeah, it's probably just searching for bodies, no big deal. Anyway.
Jesus.
So Shane and Bert start looking at this thing and being like, what is that? And they start talking to each other. Is that the Coast Guard helicopter? No, we'd be able to hear it, because this thing's silent. There's no noise coming from it whatsoever. So Bert, I think, as they're talking about what this thing could be, he comes out and says, hey, maybe it's a UFO. And then boom, as soon as he says that, the light coming from this craft immediately shoots from the river to them.
Ooh.
It's it heard them talking.
Consciousness.
It's just really weird, because they're
touches
quite
them?
a ways away.
It
it
touches
hits
them?
them.
Wow.
Yeah. And they just kind of freeze in place. Then after that, the craft begins to float towards them.
Ooh.
And right above them. And so they kind of stand outside, and they're not they can move around and stuff. They're fine. Shane, I think, kind of looks around and gets sort of closer to it and looks up to it, and just to get a better view of the thing. And now we can see this thing is fucking massive. It's the size of a football field, hovering above them, and it's silent. There's no noise whatsoever. And he is just amazed with what he's seeing. He says, this is what they say in the book, Shane could see that the shape of the craft was greater in detail. He could see the great detail of the ship. I guess he could see bits and pieces of it, it was dark, it was cloaked in some way. But he described this triangular shape with 3 lights on either point of the triangle, and some big red light underneath it pulsed like a heartbeat. So you could see these, different shapes amongst the darkness of what this thing was. So it hovers over them for a second, passes over them into the field behind them to the back of the hotel where they're working, and then all of a sudden, boom! It's off. It just takes off in a flash, blink of an eye. This massive thing, imagine that, it's something the size of a football field just taking off. You can't see it anymore. Just gone.
That'd be unnerving.
Yeah, so pretty classic UFO, triangle sighting. We've heard this thing, dozens of times before. But the next morning, the two fellas come back to work again, and they start chatting and talking to all the people, all the staff, like what they'd saw the night before. And one of the staff members, I guess, recalls there being several reports of black triangle sightings in the paper from the week previous. And so Shane looks it up, and sure enough, it's exactly what he describes seeing. And so he sees that at the bottom of this news article, this group called the API, the Aerial Phenomena Investigations, I guess was kind of monitoring the situation.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, UFO nerds. Love them. Big fans of them. So anyway, Shane reaches out to these guys, these investigators, and they, sure enough, can confirm that there's been several sightings of these black triangular craft sighted on both the US and the Canadian sides of the Niagara Falls border. So in that same area, just off and on, just people seeing them, like just floating around, looking for stuff with their light beams, and then sort of taking off. So this happened 7 months previous. So let's fast forward now to 7 months later. Shane's working this day. Bert comes to him when he comes into work and says, "Hey, I need to speak to you. Let's go to your office." All right, so we're back to the start again. So Bert begins telling Shane what happened the day before when Shane was off of work. It was his day off. So he comes in and Bert says, "Something really, really fucking weird happened yesterday. I need to talk to you about it because it freaked everyone the fuck out." So he begins telling the story of the day before. A couple of really strange-looking guys turned up, and they were looking for you, Shane. Like they were asking about you, and they just, like I said, really freaked everyone out. And so he says the bellboy at the front door was the first guy to talk to these people, these two guys, and he says this is his description. He says they were at least 6 feet 6.5 feet tall, so they're really tall guys, like abnormally tall for normal guys. But what really caused me to like just stand still in curiosity and look at these guys for a second was that they were just identical. They looked like they were like identical clones, not just twins, but clones. And he says, while I was talking to them, I was trying to look for any differences. I just couldn't believe it. They were exactly identical. They looked human to me, except that they were identical. I didn't have too much time to talk with them. I just remember they weren't old. They didn't look young. They didn't look either old or young. So there was just a really weird look to them, obviously. Like something was off. And he says regarding their skin tone, it was pale, like really, really pale. Like they had never seen sun before in their life. They had these hats that they wore, like fedoras on top of their heads, and they were dressed all in black. And it was a little bit shocking to see people dressed like that in that moment, because I guess it was May, so it wasn't overly like cold or whatever.
Yeah.
But this guy, didn't have too much time to talk with him. He had like a bunch of stuff to do, and they were asking about Shane, the hotel manager, and they just kind of walked through into the hotel. So they go up to the front desk after this, and they ask where Shane is, and they ask another guy. And he tells we're talking about Men in Black here, obviously, right? So the Men in Black, so he tells the Men in Black that, well, Shane's not working today. And they give him this odd look, like they don't believe what he's talking about. What he tells them that Shane's not working today. Like they have this like distrustful kind of look to him. And they kind of move on from him, just like walk away from him, and go to talk to another lady who's working in the lobby. Her name's Maria. And Maria has much more of a visceral reaction to these guys. So she gets to talk to these guys a little longer, and they begin to like talk to her and ask her questions. But they're talking about all these crazy like government stuff and conspiracies and all these like weird things. And she's not like someone who's in the space at all, apparently. So she has no idea what the fuck they're talking about.
Right.
And she's just being polite. That's her job, to work in a hotel. She's being polite with them. And she's like, I don't know what the fuck they were talking about. But whatever it was they were talking about, that didn't bother as much as the demeanor and the distinct characteristics, she says. She explains they had no facial hair, no eyebrows, no eyelashes,